Hey gamers, and welcome to another episode of the Excel podcast. Today is a rather special episode as we're kicking off with a new monthly edition called the Developer Workshop Podcast. And as you guessed, it comprises of developers from various studios who are all here to not only discuss their studios, but also to offer advice and answer questions from other budding developers. Gamers and the gaming industry alike are really starting to embrace the indie development scene for what it is, which is a vital foundation to the future of the gaming industry. So what better way to discuss the state of the indie development scene than to get a bunch of indie developers and industry professionals in the one room to share their current projects with us and discuss why you should be getting excited for what's to come. With me today, I have my co-hosts, Aussie Gamer.
Good to be back.
And Mr. Anthony Askew.
I'm a squid now.
Oh, he's still feeling the backlash from his Nintendo time last week. From Other Ocean Interactive, we have the makers of iDub, Mr. Mike Micah.
Well, hello. You even use it as a plural, so I'm like a fleet of Mike Micahs.
Is it Micah or Miker?
Micah.
I thought it was Miker. Miker would have been great. If your name was Mike Miker, I would have just lost my. That would have been amazing. Like that would have sounded like a name that you would come up with if you come up with like a fake name. Like what's your name?
It's my stage name, my indie stage name.
Oh my goodness. Okay, from development studio Drop Dead Interactive, the makers of Gear Gauntlet, we have Jay Adeloy.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Joining us from Making Games, who are currently developing Raging Justice, we have Nick Macon.
Hello there.
And also joining us to provide us with a bit of perspective on the marketing side of things, and also to give many of you your first exposure to an exciting new franchise, is the head of PR for Cold Furnace Studios, Mr. Max Rampage.
Howdy guys, how's it going?
So, to get us started, I thought that it might be nice for the listeners to hear a little bit from each of you about the projects that you're currently working on and your experience in the gaming industry. Mike, would you like to get us started?
Sure, I'll go ahead and kick it off. So I'm Mike Micah, head of Other Ocean Interactive. On the creative side, I'm like head of development. And we shipped a game this last February called iDarb, #iDarb. And it's a weird name, but it actually means, it's an acronym for It Draws a Red Box. And it's because a year and a half before that, I sent out a tweet of a red box on a new project because I just wanted to work on something for fun and see where it would go. And I didn't expect the avalanche of ideas to come from Twitter. I was new to Twitter, so I didn't understand, right? So everybody's, of course, going to say something. And I thought it'd be hilarious to take all these crazy ideas coming from people I don't know from all over the world and try to put them in a game and see how bad it could be. And the problem was, after a little while, after about a week, it started to turn into something really cool, and that's what led to iDarb launching in February. So that launched as part of the Xbox One Eddie at Xbox program, which we can talk. I'm sure a lot of us will have stuff to say about later, and in a good way, I hope. And then we also, when we launched on Super Bowl Sunday, so we thought we had no chance in the world of possibly ever getting any attention because we had no marketing, no whatever, because we're just a small group. And a wonderful thing happened because it was something that was developed with the Twitter audience. There was already a pre-baked audience. So on Super Bowl Sunday, we managed to launch very quietly to 16 years worth of gameplay in a single day, which was awesome. So it just took off, and a lot of it has to do with kind of the things we're doing in the game, which has these things called hash bombs. That because the game was built with streaming and an internet audience in mind, so people who are streaming the game can affect or can be affected by people watching it. And it allows for anybody to go into any single session and trigger things like lights out, gravity switching, flooding, all this other kind of stuff. It's just this really dumb, fun game. It's kind of a party game that's been kind of getting this little cult audience building up slowly over time. And so I've been working on updates for that, which we have one coming up soon, which includes, we just announced recently that we're putting in new maps that include a Walking Dead map, among others, because when we put the game out, we're watching people stream from all over the place. Like we have like the Conan O'Brien writing team playing the game and streaming it and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people started playing it and then said, hey, we want to have some part of this. And so We've got a nice little lineup of things coming soon that I think people are gonna like. How the hell does a little game like this get this these things in it? It's only because people are just having fun with it, and it's been awesome. It's been an awesome ride. And on the flip side of that too, we have a couple other things that we're gonna be kicking off soon. Now that we've got more people to help out. We've got some other projects coming up that we'll be announcing soon. But we also are, as if we don't have enough to do, we're also working on Mega Man Legacy Collection, which is a perfect simulation of Mega Man 1 through 6, right down to CRT mode simulation in a way that we haven't seen it before and all that kind of stuff because we're just nerds about it. But we'll see how that does. But it's Mega Man, so hopefully it'll do pretty well. But it was like a nice little side project for us where we wanted to really invest time into doing those games right, because even the color palettes on a lot of the reissues are all wrong and stuff, and so we're all like freaking out all the time. So now we got our chance to try to do it right.
Awesome. So The Walking Dead as a map, that's going to be epic. I'm really looking forward to that.
It's got walkers in it, of course. So we had fun trying to figure out how to make that a competitive thing with a whole bunch of zombies walking around.
Yeah, like no reason required. It's The Walking Dead, so why not? Awesome. So Jay, would you like to tell us about what's been going on with Drop Dead?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I actually feel like a novice in the room compared to the other developers in here because I haven't worked in the games industry, although I'm a professional software developer. But I suppose, yeah, Gear Gauntlet's really been the big push for us at Drop Dead Interactive. That's sort of what got us into sort of what we would say is the limelight, even though it's just Twitter and Facebook. But yeah, we're currently working on Gear Gauntlet, getting ready to push that out now. So that's myself working on that as the lead developer and sort of the owner of Drop Dead Interactive, and I'm working with Steve Smith, who works on all the levels, and got a few other developers that help out here and there just to offer some of their knowledge. And because I'm so strapped for time, because I do make the game sort of in the evenings after work and stuff like that. So it's sort of been a real big team effort. And yeah, we're really coming right to the end of it now. The thing is, what I made a big mistake with Gig on it was that I gave a sort of a time period as to when I would launch it, not realizing just how difficult it was to actually get the whole game completed, get all the testing done, do all the marketing, do all the business side of it, promote the game, go to events, get people interested, just everything. And it actually can sometimes make you feel really tired, especially sort of doing the day job and then coming back to the wife and kids and, you know, trying to stay up late to make the game. So I've really pushed myself with this one. But I don't know, the buzz I've been getting from the fans that have been interested, and then having opportunities to, you know, do things like this and meet people like Michael, who has helped me with a few questions on the development and stuff like that, and then also being able to go to indie meets and where I met Nick and his wife, and just the whole sort of setup that goes on, that comes with sort of working on games and stuff like that. It's just been totally amazing, and just every opportunity that I'm getting with what I've been doing has just been amazing. And I mean, I've sort of started thinking about other projects to do after Gear Gauntlet, or, you know, how I can sort of expand Gear Gauntlet. And I'd say that talking to people like Debbie Bestwick from Team 17 and just listening to other indie developers, it's sort of making me look at things a bit differently in terms of trying to jump from project to project, and the possibility of, you know, just expanding the world of Gear Gauntlet and stuff like that. So, but now we just really want to get the game finished, but we are looking to the future, and it would be really lovely if we could sort of make Drop Dead Interactive our full-time avenue of work. So yeah, just looking to the future, and hopefully it will be bright.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to actually giving Gear Gauntlet a go on my Xbox. So far, you can be proud that you have caused the death of one mouse.
Yeah.
Frustrated. Like, I didn't realize how hard I'd put my mouse down. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember taking it to Agostino down at Microsoft down in the UK, and he was playing it, and you could see that he really got into it, and he started getting you could see the addictiveness started rising in his eyes, and he was just like, "This is really good," and I was like, "Oh, thank you," because normally people just say it to you, but like I could physically see it on his face, but then he was just like, "Have you thought about the difficulty? You know, because not everyone's going to be like really good. Because when you're making a game, I mean, I've played the game over 1 million times, so for me, it's sort of just natural just to be able to get through the levels and stuff like that. So we have been sort of going back through a lot of the levels and trying to look at it from a newcomer's perspective, and you know how they will feel if they sort of kept dying. You know, would that discourage them from wanting to play the rest of the game and stuff like that? So we've been going through a lot of the levels, and you know, these last few weeks has been about making it a more better experience for the user, optimizing it, because we want it to be 1080p 60 frames per second, because it is very Twitch based. So you know, that little bit of lag is we know people will get crazy and send us a lot of violent messages if we don't get it right. So, so we're just working on that.
A good comparison for you would be like, you know, when you're playing Volga the Viking and you've died for like the 95th time, you're still in the first level.
Yeah,
that is a good comparison for you to use about, you know, the frustration you feel.
Well, I've spoken to the developer of Volga, and I've told him that, you know, I want to take the title off him for the most frustrating game on the Xbox One. So, so hopefully I'll get there.
Christoph will actually hopefully be joining us next month, so you can chat with him all about it then.
Yeah, he's so hilarious when you talk to him.
I'm looking forward to it. So Nick, this will be rather exciting for a lot of people, because I don't think that half the people here will be familiar with Raging Justice. So would you like to tell us a bit about making games and Raging Justice?
Okie dokie. Well, making games is myself and my wife. We set it up about a year or so ago. The reason was Raging Justice. Raging Justice is not retro, nostalgic inspired side-scrolling beat 'em up. It's 2D. It's inspired by what was my kind of forming years as a gamer, which was the early 90s, late 80s, playing in the arcades. So I would play games like Final Fight, Double Dragon, all these fantastic games that were side-scrolling beat-em-ups, and they don't seem to be making them anymore. Now, technology's moved on, games moved on, but I just really want to make kind of a shining example of that genre and just try and make a modern take on that game. So that's what Raging Justice is. So I started it quite a few years ago as a hobby project, more primarily. It was just something to do as a little thing with me and a couple of mates that used to work with, just something to do in our spare time to make a game just for us, a little bit of fun. But it grew and grew. It's been I say 5 years, it's possibly been more that I've been working on this. Yeah. My colleague artist Jay, he said he doesn't like telling people how long we've been working on it because he gets quite embarrassed by that now. But it's a labour of love. We do have full-time jobs like Jay Gear Gauntlet. You know, we've got full-time jobs. We're doing this as a hobby in our spare time, but we're loving doing it. And over the last kind of 12 months or so, it started to become more of a thing. We got on board with the idea Xbox. We ported to a few other platforms. We've realised that, hang on a second, we've got a game here. It's not just a little bit of fun in our spare time. We've got a game here. So we should make it a professional product, finish it, release it, console, PC, Steam, all the the whole 9 yards. So that's where we're at with making games. And yeah, Raging Justice, scroll and beat 'em up, fantastic. But then
it really does look like it's going to be a lot of fun. And I understand that you've worked for studios previously, Nick?
Oh yeah, so I mean, I've been in the game industry about 15 years now. I started in 2000 with Rare. I worked there for a good 10 years. It was. So I worked there with Nintendo. I worked there with Microsoft. Worked on some of the Microsoft platform stuff towards the end of the time. I moved off the game teams onto things like Xbox Avatars. I was part of the team that made them. They actually pitched that to Microsoft. That was quite exciting. Then after there, I worked at Sony. I've worked at Codemasters, and right now my day job's app development. So it's outside of games, but it's with a group of people who I used to work with at Rare. So we're very, very much a game company as a day job. But my focus for game development is making games. It's a passion rather than a job right now. So I do that in my spare time. I do that to relax. I do that to wind down. I do it as a hobby.
Isn't it amazing how people, like pretty much everyone in this room, chooses the most stressful, painful things possible to have as their passion and their hobbies? Nothing relaxing, something that's going to drive you crazy.
At times, I think I've made a mistake saying I'm going to make this game, I'm going to finish this game, it's going to be as good as I want it to be, I'm going to make the best I can. I mean, it feels like I shouldn't promise things to myself, but I can't let go. Like most people, I'm in this industry, I'm quite a perfectionist. I want to get the game as good as I can. I want it to be the best I can make it, but that takes time, that takes effort, and it takes sweat and tears.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's all going to be worth it in the long run.
That's the hope. I mean, one way or another, it'll be worth it because I'll have a game that I'm proud of, and I'll have a game I can sit and I can play.
Absolutely.
I am still making the game for myself in some regards. I still sit and play it. I overworked a few weeks ago and gave myself eye strain, so I had to stop work for a week. But now I've come back to it after a little breather. I'm actually really enjoying my game again. I must have been really close to burning out, which is, that is a problem or a risk with all this overwork.
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to having a chance at playing it. I've liked what I've seen so far. Looks like a lot of fun. It's very vibrant, very engaging.
Cheers.
So, for you guys who haven't heard of Cold Furnace before, as I mentioned earlier, we have Max Rampage here. Coolest name ever, by the way, Max. Just loving that. Would you like to walk us through what's happening at Cold Furnace Studios?
Absolutely. Well, and yeah, the name is partly my own and partly my actual call sign at work, so I can't claim all the creativity for that. But a little bit about Cold Furnace Studios. I guess we're an independent studio startup out of Fredericton, New Brunswick. So enjoying the East Coast weather right now with lots of rain and humidity. But basically, in May is when we got incorporated, and we're aspire to be a AAA game dev studio. Especially in New Brunswick, there isn't anything like that here. So the closest thing to us would be Montreal, where you have a lot of the big AAA studios. But really out here, there's nothing, and there's actually a lot of potential out here in terms of students and experience with people working in similar fields, but nowhere for them to actually go, and no support for the community on the East Coast, at least in Canada. So what we are is roughly, I'd say 20% of us are ex-military or current serving military, and the rest of us are AAA or ex-AAA employees. So the CEO is Mark Wheeler, and he's current serving. He'll be retiring after 20 plus years of service in the next couple of years. And his wife, Lori, used to be a security architect for Ubisoft and the government in Canada as well. So she left that job, and the two of them are working together to build this studio. So it's a lot of fun for them. It's their baby, obviously, and they're putting together an exceptional team to try to build something great, I guess. A couple of members on the team we have Brad Lucas. Basically what we did over the last couple of months is started hiring department heads who could then go and hire their own artists. So a very top-down kind of structure, but with the freedom of movement for each department to kind of do their own thing. So we picked up Brad Lucas, who did some work for Disney. If any of you have seen like the Disney Dalmatian movie, he managed the art project for that kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
He's our art director now, and he teaches his full-time job. So I guess I left out, all of us have full-time jobs until this project actually takes off. So his full-time job is teaching art at Da Vinci College here in Fredericton, and he actually poaches a lot of his own students for hiring our own artists, which is quite funny.
Clever.
including Lori's daughter, who's actually one of his students. So yeah, it's a family affair, I suppose. Picked up a few other names like Jeff Mundy from EA Games and Terry Schnober from Encore Interactive. But essentially, we try to get some high caliber, middle-aged, kind of relatively experienced people for our department heads, and then they're going down and hiring all the fresh talent, all the kids out of university and whatever. And the big thing we want to do is support the community as well. So we just had Jaloo out here in Miramichi, New Brunswick, which is kind of like a game dev get-together where people showcase different technologies and whatnot in gaming. So we sponsored that, and then as well we sponsored the Fredericton Gaming Exhibition, which is just an opportunity for gamers in the Fredericton area to get together and showcase their gaming skills, I suppose. So that's kind of what the studio is about. And what we managed to do quite a bit in the last couple months, to all of our surprise actually, the amount of support we're getting, is once we hired all our department heads and started getting the message out there what we're doing, we got lots of applications from people who wanted to be artists and programmers, and more importantly, we got some partnerships. PlayStation and NVIDIA came along, and we just locked in Xbox a couple of weeks ago, which Bella was telling me is actually a bit of a challenge to get, as they can be quite stingy. We didn't know. We were a bit surprised that we got it so quickly, but yeah, we were pretty happy about that.
I just want to go on record that the word stingy is his and not mine. I never said stingy, but yes, they did a brilliant job of getting on the idea at Xbox program so quickly.
And the funny thing is I've been thrown in this job, so I know Mark through work. I'm also current serving military, and I got on this job because I tend to be good with people, I guess, and going out there, but I'm by no means an expert in programming or artists, or I'm not even that great at video games. I get my ass kicked online all the time. But I have fun doing it, and it's definitely a passion of mine. And Mark asked if I would do this job, and I said, absolutely. Like, this sounds like so much fun. So for me, it's a big learning curve as well, trying to learn like all the different communities I need to get connected with, like Steam and Twitter and Facebook, and how they're. I find it's a very eclectic community, the whole gaming world, and you got to kind of talk to all of them, which has been a big challenge for me. But it's been a big learning curve. And we're doing well, though, and I think we're probably about 4 months away from getting some concept art out there. It's just taking a while because it's going to be a AAA game we're building. We're using Unreal 4, so it takes a bit of work. But we'll have some concept art ready within the next 4 months, and hopefully some playable content. Our goal is within 3 years have some playable content and have alpha and beta testing underway.
Awesome. Well, make sure you stay tuned to Excel Gaming, everybody, because we'll be bringing you updates on that. So check in with us on a regular basis, because as soon as that concept art is ready, we'll have it there ready for you to see.
I guess I didn't even talk about the game we're making at all. I just talked about the studio.
I'm like, this sounds amazing. I want to play it right now.
Just so you guys all know, you're popping my web meeting cherry as well. So you guys can put that notch on your belt. So the game we're making is called The Undying, and it's a military-themed first-person shooter / RPG. So we kind of wanted to merge the idea of a fully immersed world like Fallout, which is one of our favorite games, and merge it with something like Call of Duty or Battlefield and put those two worlds together. So there'll be elements of the game that are more linear and more first-person shooter style, but then there'll be other missions and elements of the game that are open world, and of course we'll build on that if the company grows and we have more resources to make more of an immersive open world, and that's our total aim. But with our resources right now, we're going to do a mix of the two. Which,
Take my money now.
Pardon?
Take my money now.
Yeah, right? So I guess the different thing we're trying to go with is obviously being ex-military and current serving military, and going for a military-themed game is the realism. Because even like playing Battlefield and Call of Duty sometimes, like my specialty myself is I do airstrikes. So I do airstrikes, and I'm doing this on Call of Duty. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, this will never happen like this. So we want to find that balance where we make it realistic, but all in terms of not just everything down to like how the weapon is constructed and the physics of it, but the tactics that are used, the campaign storylines that are used, make that a bit more realistic. And but still find the right balance where it's fun. Because if we make it totally realistic, and no one can be a sniper anymore, that's not going to be fun either.
Yeah.
But I guess the gut-wrenching thing we're trying to go through to kind of give this game an edge is instead of just going for blood and gore and that kind of physically graphic nature that is popular with gamers, is we want a more emotional graphicness to the game, like something that really twists your stomach. And the idea came from our military experience, where guys come back from Afghanistan or Bosnia or whatever, and it's like you may or may not have done, been in an explosive action, but yet a lot of guys, had some very traumatizing experiences, and we wanted to bring that into the game. So what we're looking to do is put the gamer in really uncomfortable situations where, they have the opportunity, kind of like Infamous, where they can do good things or bad things, but sometimes it doesn't matter what you do, bad things are going to happen, and we want to connect the player to all the different characters and the storyline and what's going on, and then when these bad things are happening, that's their fault. It's an uncomfortable feeling, and that's what we want to go for, is kind of bring the mental, I don't know what you would call it, like the mental graphicness of the game element to these gamers, and let them feel something a bit more real.
Awesome. Well, just promise me one thing. If you do integrate a multiplayer aspect into this, make it so that if somebody is literally standing still in a corner for more than 3 seconds, they automatically explode.
Actually, I wanted your guys' opinion on this. I was playing multiplayer with my buddies last night, and we were like, whatever happened to split screen? Like, when your buddies come over to your house, no games do split screen anymore.
Do you know what
kills me that there's no split screen.
Really?
It does, because right now, I don't know if anybody's been following on Twitter, but I just made an 8-way split Wolfenstein game in IDAR because I miss it so much. I'm like, I want to try that with 8 players and see what happens. It was awesome to play like that.
Yeah, and everyone has giant TVs now, and people's, I know we're all online and connected, but we still have friends come over to our homes.
Well,
and you can also get more accuracy with that.
I moved from London to Nottingham, and all my friends stayed, and no one will come visit me. So for me, I have to purely play online because no one comes to my house. And my wife won't play computers, so for me, it's like use the resource for something else.
Yeah, but you should be able to do both, right? Like you should be able to play online or do a mix, maybe like split screen and you're online. Like that'd be.
You know what happened to split screen? Technology. That's what happened to split screen.
No, laziness, because it's so hard to do. That's why people don't do it.
It's easier to do than online.
Yeah.
It's so hard for people to do the multipass rendering. They want to have the best visuals and everything else, so they spend all their time with that rather than do split screen.
Yeah, visuals.
It's got to look great.
I remember years ago split screening with one of my friends, and what I used to have to do was get a flat brim hat, and have it so that it was just pushed down just far enough in front of my eyes so it literally blocked the top half of the screen, because I just couldn't focus with everything going on in the top half of the screen and focus on what I was. So yeah, I had a flat brim hat sort of blocking the top half of the TV. That was how we used to split screen.
What was the last big budget, or not even big budget, but just major release split screen game you actually played in split screen? Because the last one that I played wasn't even a big budget release. It was friggin' Terminator Salvation. Because the only multiplayer that I had was split screen, so that's how you could enjoy
Call of Duty Black Ops 2 had it.
in person.
Yeah.
I just played one yesterday, but it wasn't a shooter game. It's this awesome little game called Rocket League. Best idea ever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is racing game soccer. I like that.
You drive around little remote control race cars, and you play soccer, hitting this giant ball around. It's amazing.
Incredibly addictive.
Oh yeah, me and my buddies played for hours.
I think Plants vs. Zombies. I think Plants vs. Zombies is going to be a split screen game too. So
yeah, actually, no, I played it with my son.
Yeah, and I think it's those games that are more targeted towards children definitely have that split screen element. I guess because you don't have multiple Xboxes or PlayStations in a household.
Or you don't want them to go online with the crazy people out there either.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't want to go online with the crazy people out there, and I'm an adult.
The worst, because I think it was Max who was saying he's not very good at games or whatever. But the worst thing is when you release your game and you go online and you get your ass owned. That sucks. It took like maybe a day for me to get on my own game and get like humiliated over and over again. So
I'll make sure there's a God mode or something for myself.
Yeah, you got to do something like that. I failed to do that, so remember that.
Or I'll make one part of the game like so realistic and like niche-like that it'll just be like the one thing I can do.
The irony is, I've had Mike on my friends list on Xbox since just before iDub came out, and I'm yet to play iDub with him.
I'm afraid to play anybody in iDub because like they'll capture it and show like I'm playing the creator and look, I schooled him.
No. See, that's my reservation about playing it with you. I was like, this could get really embarrassing. And the thing is, some games now have it built in so that at certain sections of the game, it automatically, very kindly, records something that just happened for you. You have no say over it. So
yeah, and then you find some 13-year-old hopped up on Mountain Dew teabagging your character.
Yeah, exactly. That's a highlight in the reel.
It's there, and people can see
real war.
It's not good. Please don't build that into any of your games. Any of you, please do not build that into any of your games.
It's actually pretty humiliating to think. Like you look at somebody's account on Xbox, and here's their highlight reels, and all it is other players teabagging them. You feel good at all.
Sit back with a bowl full of popcorn.
That's me. That's how I play.
Oh dear. All right. So we've actually had quite a few questions sent in from various other budding developers, I guess is a good term for them, of things that they would like to run past you guys. So I'm gonna just rattle out the first one, and whoever wants to tackle it, chuck your hand up. So the first question is, what advice would you offer a developer trying to get their game marketed?
Give up right now. Find another hobby. There's not enough room.
That's a tough one, that.
Minions. The answer is minions.
Minion.
I'm learning this right now. I do not have enough hands or heads to do all the different things I need to be doing, and we're trying to get me some helpers.
You do have to find the time. It is there, as you said before. There's so many different communities, and you have to engage with all of them. Well, you don't have to, but to spread the word, you have to be on Steam, on the Steam community side of it. You've got to be on Twitter. You've got to be on Facebook. You've got to be on here, there, and everywhere. It's very hard for a single person to do.
Yeah.
It's really difficult. Like I'm on the road more than I am developing, and it's frustrating. But you kind of have to go out there and keep momentum going and the word about your game, because that's almost more critical than almost your day-to-day leading up to your release. And that's the most conflicted thing, because the time you need to be spending most on your game is the time you also need to be spending most marketing. And so it's not a one-person job. But with indies, you can't help it. A lot of these guys are 1 or 2 person teams, and so you kind of have to juggle both. And that's why I think you see a lot of these games taking so long to come out. And stuff because people are working in the afternoons, at night, evenings, and trying to market their game and do these sorts of things. And it's just a surprise people can keep their day job while doing it too. But it's all encompassing. Like this week, I have one day that I'm home. The rest of the days I'm traveling all over the place. And then in the back of my mind, I'm bringing my laptop everywhere just to keep working on the game. So I'm working in the plane. I'm working in cars. Stuff. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I found is that there are some developers that will actually tell you absolutely nothing about the game because they say they don't want people to steal their ideas, or they want it to be a big surprise. And you kind of think to themselves, like, no one knows who you are, so who's going to buy your game unless you tell them yourself? And I had a conversation with Chris Sharla, and he was like, "Oh, Jay, you're so relentless when it comes to Twitter." And I was like, "Really?" Whenever I go into it, I see iDub hashed everywhere. So I'm not doing that great of a job. I need to get a hashtag something just to, become bigger than iDub, but it just never happened. So Mike is doing something really well.
Well, there's one thing that we're talking about advice here. One thing that we kind of stumbled into and realized was really powerful was that we made the interaction with our game require them to talk about iDarb on Twitter or other areas like Twitch and all that sort of thing. So every time somebody wants to interact with a game, they have to mention iDarb. And so it became this like viral marketing for the game as a way to play the game. And I mean, there's probably 101 million ways to do that even better, but that was something I think that really put us on the map. And if we didn't do that, we wouldn't be, the word of mouth for this game wouldn't be as big as it was.
Oh, it was ingenious.
An article I read about just going off what you something you mentioned about people trying to steal your work is the pirating community and people who actively try to steal work. And it was actually interesting that like this article is basically saying pirating isn't all bad for whatever is being stolen because a lot of people, regardless, won't pirate, and it just helps spread the word about that particular product. And second of all, Lori, having worked for as a security architect for Ubisoft, one of the things they would do is instead of making everything completely exclusive from pirating so that no one could hack it, they would leave certain things open and engage the pirate community instead and get them involved. So instead of stealing everything, they kind of, you gave them enough to keep them happy, and then they spread the word about your game.
It's true. I won't mention names, but there was a developer who told me once that he was so happy he got pirated because he was a high hit on Pirate Bay and caused a lot of sales.
Hey, TJ Marsh in the comments has just asked a question. He's asked, I assume it's a him, forgive me if it's not. I have a question. Do you believe connections are the major important thing when trying to become an indie dev? So, connections in the industry, I assume there.
It's helpful. I mean, from my point of view, I was in the industry for 13 years before I started making games, so I already had these connections, and that helped get a foot up on the ladder. But now, because of the democratization of game dev, anyone can be a dev. There are so many more little communities popping up around the place. I've met Jay through our local indie dev meetup that happens every month. We go meet at a pub. We all just swap war stories or just chat about things and help each other out. And you develop connections quite easily, I think, nowadays, in real life and online. That it will help, but I don't think it's a big thing to get started with.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a long time, and the old days, connections were more important because there was fewer people controlling the distribution of games, and so you really had to try to figure out how to get into those channels. But now that everything's more digital and the democratization of everything, like Nick mentioned, it's so much easier. Like the connections now that you need to make are basically what's already happening, like by submitting a question to this show or getting on Twitter and everything like that. Like you find people like-minded and you just go and exploit that now, and it's so much easier.
And the power of social media is amazing. I mean, this podcast, for example, is a prime example of just how powerful social media can be. Because not only have I never met any of you people in real life, but we have people from various countries, from various different studios. We've got developers listening in the actual audience, people that are hashtagging us on Twitter, that are sharing us out on Facebook, and that's getting the name out of all of the games of the studios that you guys are making, and that's just social media. If you really harness social media, you really don't need contacts. You just need social media.
We did an analysis of like the word of mouth and the reach that we got for IDAR was equivalent to like a $15 million campaign, and it was all through social media. In the old days, if it was in the old days, it would have been $15 million. Now it was just like, that's just hard work and hardly any money.
Well, that was a good question. Thank you for submitting that to PJ. Now, we have got another question here, and I wanted to just bring it up because I don't want the developer to think that we're not, that we haven't taken it on notice. But he has asked us about the basic controlling of Turbo++ code. Now, we're not going to go into that one because it's very, very technical, but I just wanted to bring it up so that he knows that we do have the question here. We are taking it on notice, and we will find an answer for you and get that back to you via Facebook. So the next question has been submitted by Steve Smith, who some of you guys will know. Sounds like it's very familiar of, I'm sure I've heard of him before, Jay. So his question is, what's the first point of iDubbbz's development that made you think the concept would work?
You know what? It was probably the day before we launched. No, it was the day after we launched. I'm sorry, the day after we launched.
Oh my God, people are buying this. It looks like it worked.
Honestly, like somebody mentioned Chris Charla earlier. I was on the phone like probably 3 or 4 days before it was supposed to go live, and all I did was say like, dude, I hope you don't get a black eye over this. I don't know. Like, I was so doubtful about the game. I'm like, apologizing in advance. So, yeah, it's one of those things where I know we would take it to shows, people loved it and would play it and everything like that. It's like I love Rocket League, right? So that's like a very similar style game where it's very sports centric, just fantasy sport. And so it was always fun to play with people at shows, but I didn't think anybody at home would really enjoy it because it's more of a party game. You have to kind of get people together and play it, or you can play online, but it's like halfway where it needs to be online and stuff. So when it launched and we actually got a positive reception for it, it was just completely shocking. And I was almost like, I still don't believe it. In some ways, I'm like, maybe it's like that connections thing we were talking about earlier, where maybe it's just everybody who got it as my friend. I just know that many people. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense.
Or maybe you just made a really good game.
Yeah, maybe. I still can't believe it. I still work on it because I'm like, I gotta make it good.
It already is good. It's a very addictive game. And
no game is ever finished.
Yeah, no game has ever finished. And in the old days, you were forced to do that. It went in a box and there was no updating it. And so you spent so much time trying to get it perfect. And it would take forever. Now, we spent, I went from February to basically November to finish. It was, really short. And I went out there, I'm like, this is definitely unfinished. We're patching, the first week after. And we haven't even shipped our patch yet. But we're in that mindset.
Just picking up on that point, though, how do you guys manage that labor of love? This vision that you had at the very, very beginning and this passion for this game creation versus what essentially ends up becoming a commercial entity. How do you balance those two?
I can't answer that yet. I haven't released.
But at what point, though, do you go, it's ready to be released? And I know it's not 100% right, but I've got to get it out the door.
All right. So, yeah, there was a point where I think it was around October, end of September, where I'm like, you know what? We got to sew this up because we kept adding things because ideas would still coming in from Twitter and our suggestion box and stuff, and I was just blindly going after them. And it dawned on us that as these guys are experiencing or will experience soon, it's like going through the certification process, and we knew this from making other games, is laborious and painful. And if I didn't stop in September, then October, November, December, we're going to have 3 months off from where we were at best just to take a game that we're just doing for fun without even thinking about certification to proper release mode. And so I wanted to get the game out in December, and we had to stop putting things in and switch our gears to just shipping it. And once that revelation kind of came over, then things kind of took over. It got more boring in many ways because it's like, oh shit, now I gotta support all these controllers, right? Because I have 8 controllers and it's already a mess to try to figure out how to do that. And we have to get on. We're barely online. We spent 2 weeks to turn it into an online game because we're going to be local only. So we're like, if we're going to go online, we got to start now. So we had to cram all that in the time between release and that late September decision.
Well, you did a good job of it.
Well, thank you. You know what? The internet. Sometimes I was expecting them to not think that, but they all kind of support us, which was awesome. All those guys on Twitter who were fans of just what they saw at shows and everything like that and spreading the word of mouth. That was awesome. I still think we failed on many parts, but we're trying to correct those now.
Well, that's the thing. For me, I think we're starting to see more of a trend these days with games that are coming out that really have embraced that sense of security with not having to have a complete game because you can ship it and update it on day 1 and day 2 and 4, 6, 94 and 113. You can just continue updating it constantly. And I think we are seeing more of a trend of studios that are over embracing the security of that. So, to hear that people are actually still really focusing on ensuring that a game is as whole as it can be before it gets out the door is really quite refreshing.
Well, this goes to an earlier conversation that I think we were having with Jay before we went live, where you not just completely forgot my thought, so forget that. I'll come up with it later.
Yeah, I was just going to say something. With Gear Gauntlet, I had quite a lot of ideas and stuff to do. I mean, originally we were going to have 100 levels, and that quickly got scaled down to 40 levels because the amount of detail we was putting into the levels, it was taking so long just to get one done. And then one of the things for us was that we wanted to get a product that was absolutely almost near perfect, because me personally, because it was the first time I was doing this on the Xbox One, I was afraid that if I patched it, I'll probably break the game afterwards. So I didn't want to have any reasons to patch it. So I thought, get it right the first time, so that I could just literally walk away and just, sit back and not have any problems. But I know there's people going to find bugs in there somehow. I've tested it as much as I can, and so has Steve. But we know that someone's going to find something that is either going to melt the screen or something like that. So, I'll be ready to fix it just in case.
Oh, that's you just reminded me too, because the conversation was about somebody who was discussing that as a game developer you can't be a game player because it's just your perspective or whatever. But I think when you're developing a game, and if you're a hardcore game player, you have that sensibility of like, I have to ship something as complete as possible because that's what I want. And then you have the development side of you saying, okay, like what can I do with all these bugs and certification and all stuff. So I think there's a healthy tug of war that goes on when you're completing a project there if you have both sides covered, like your left brain, right brain. And that's what I was trying to remember.
There's definitely a side where, as a gamer, you would want to have like this feature and this. You want all these features and options, right? But there is a timetable and there is effort into making those features reality. And at some point in time, it does become unhealthy to keep adding stuff. You know what I mean? Like Duke Nukem Forever is a perfect example of a game that was in development for so many years, and they kept adding more and more stuff, and it never got finished to the point where when it finally did, it was just a jumbled mess and it was behind on everything.
Oh, there's the plus side of doing a post-launch update sort of thing, is you actually get feedback from the players, right? And then the things you add is related to what they want. Versus like Duke Nukem Forever, the foundation could have been broken to begin with, and all the time they took with a broken foundation isn't going to ship a better game. And if they would have just released that game earlier and had the process like games have now of the audience playing it and then adapting to what they want, that may have been a better story we heard off of that game.
I honestly don't know what era Duke Nukem Forever could have gone to where it would have been a normal, successful game. Because here's the thing, it's not... It's quote-unquote old school in terms of like the character and I guess like the levels and stuff like that, but the controls and the way the controls like number one, old school games, if you remember this year, they have a weapon wheel where you have multiple weapons. Duke Nukem Forever had an old school feel, but you can only carry 2 weapons at a time. So like it's not really like you know what I mean? Like they took too many modern things and they tried to put it in this like old school genre. And what ends up happening is that it negates each other out. Like it's too old to be modern because there's so many things that are just like not compatible with gamers nowadays. Because like
well, that's a great point you bring up for a lot of indie developers right now who are making these kind of old school style games. Is like there's a reason some things evolved, and don't try to always go back and make it the way it was, because there's for every like retro style indie game, there's 100 that are really bad. And so you got to really pay attention to what modern gamers want, but then also have that aesthetic and feel that nostalgia you're going for. But
you have to stay true to that nostalgia. Like
what Nick's working on, what I've seen of Nick's work is looking great, and it's got a modern sensibility.
Yeah, we're definitely afraid of being too retro in the feel. We're afraid of it being, okay, so I played this in 1989. Why do I want to play it now? Kind of game. It's something that I am wary of, and part of taking it to the shows that we've taken it to is to make sure that people still want to play it, that they find it fresh enough. And the best compliment I've had from people tends to be, this plays just like I remember whatever game it is that they remember it playing like, rather than it plays like that game, like how they remember it, if you get what I'm saying. So I'm hopefully trading on their kind of rose-tinted specs, making a game that plays like they remember games playing, which is, to me, is what I'm aiming at.
I've worked on a lot of like sequels to old games or remasters, like from Commando and like Street Fighter stuff and everything like that. And the one thing that we kind of determined a long time ago is like you want to make the game you remember, not the game it was, because that nostalgia you had in your mind, if you haven't touched the game for a long time, it's grown and you have this like memory of like the context of that moment. But now a modern game, you have to tell that in a modern way, and that's what like your game looks like, Nick. By the way.
Thank you.
Have you ever gone back, like, and played a game that you were very fond of, and then you went back to it, and it didn't live up to that due to your memory? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it
Yes,
just
Final
fell apart.
Fantasy.
Which one?
Final Fantasy
The first
7.
one?
No,
Oh,
that's
7.
Final Fantasy
Okay.
7. Yeah, because I remember that being like the best one ever for me, and one of the sort of games that sort of, in terms of like the story and stuff like that, really. It was from my childhood. It was a lot of the good memories, but when it came on, I think it was PC. They re-released it, and it was just horrible trying to look at it. It's yeah. So it's all about the memory, but not playing exactly what you
The
played
first
before.
Tomb Raider as well, right? Like that's one you go back to now. And
Yes. Oh.
Ooh.
Well, yeah, that was PlayStation 1, right? I mean, like any
Yeah.
elementary like PS1 game, you're gonna look back and it was like terrible. like very few games of the PS1 era really hold up. Like the later end of the PS1, sure, but like
Yeah.
the early gen are just like, I mean, like it's rudimentary. Like I remember, I went back a little while ago, and like, I'm a huge wrestling mark. I play wrestling games. I watch a lot of pro wrestling, and if you talk to anyone that plays pro wrestling games, especially now, everyone always hypes up No Mercy as like the best wrestling game of all time. Like,
Yeah.
why can't it do this? But these days graphics. I went back and I played No Mercy a little while ago, and I can't do it. It's so slow and sluggish. Like, I'm spoiled with how fast and responsive buttons are nowadays. I can't go back. Same with games like GoldenEye, where I remember going back to the split screen, having friends over and playing that game
You
with
have to
split screen
squint.
with those terrible
Yeah.
controls. And you can't, like, going back to that now is impossible.
It's really hard.
So
I
bad.
remember
It's
being
really
at
hard.
CES during that transition because if you put it in context in history, the PlayStation came out and introduced these like really fast 3D graphics at a time that was very difficult to do. Before 3D graphic cards, basically, it was around the same time, but like it was for consoles, that was very new. And I remember being at CES. I'm walking around looking at all these different places where they have like Comanche, the helicopter game with voxels on Super Nintendo using FX chip, and it was going like 8 frames a second. There was Wild Tracks on Super Nintendo and Star Fox, all this stuff, and all the consoles, and even 3DO was there, and it's doing decent 3D, but not
Star
not
Fox still
great.
holds up.
And Star Fox still holds up. The
Star Fox
gameplay
still holds
within
up.
those games, like they didn't forget the gameplay in those games on the Nintendo side, like Mario 64, etc. But I remember looking at all this stuff going, oh, this is awesome, this is awesome. Then I went to the like kind of back like gray area corner where all the like import stuff was, and they had a PlayStation there. They didn't even have PlayStation at the show. And they had MotorTune GP running on it, and there was a crowd of like 300 people just trying to get close to see it. So everybody else like showing all the stuff off over in the main show didn't matter anymore because everybody was looking at this PlayStation with Ridge Racer and MotorTune and going like, oh my god, this is the future. We're all blinded by the fact that it could do 3D that fast and that good. Forgetting that the gameplay was also something that was very important in the games because we're just mesmerized by this technology, like F-Zero was for the Super Nintendo. And
I mean,
F-Zero still holds up too.
Back in the day, Ridge Racer was like the perennial, like the number one. Like, that was a huge racing franchise.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
Ridge Racer first came out, everyone jumped on board. I mean, I remember prior to Ridge Racer, like, what were your big racing games? Like F1, like Mario Kart.
Yeah, pretty much.
Ridge Racer was like, oh my goodness, look at this.
Indianapolis 500 on the Amiga or PC, and it was like mind-breaking, but it was still running at 10 frames a second or whatever.
Which came first? Was it Ridge Racer or Daytona? Do you remember Daytona, where you get to...
Daytona was later, I think, because I think VR Racing was around the same time as Ridge Racer, because it was like VR Racing looked very boxy and very Tron early days stuff, and then here comes Ridge Racer.
Ridge Racer, yeah. Okay, I remember my first racing game legit was Pole Position.
Yeah.
The Atari.
Which even there's Atari, but also the arcade version by Namco and stuff. The way they did the road, they had to like offset each line as they went down the screen and stuff, and it looked nice in the day. But then Ridge Racer has full real world type stuff that just blew minds everywhere. It made me drop $500 on a import PlayStation with games, and then wonder why I did it later. But it was just awesome at the time.
I think Tekken was the one that got me on the PlayStation.
Tekken was my
To
favorite.
this day, it's still a great game. To this day, it's still a good game. They re-released it on was it the Xbox 360 and the PS3 last gen, and it still holds up very well. Like, it's still a very, very well balanced game.
Tekken was great. It made Battle Arena Toshinden look like baby school.
Yeah.
I recently went back and tried to replay SOCOM from when I played it back on PlayStation, like when I was a teenager, and I loved that game. Like for me, that was sort of I'd been away from gaming for a few years, and then I came back as a teenager and played SOCOM, and it was challenging and frustrating, and I was immediately hooked. I thought it was fantastic, and then revisiting it, I was like, why was this so great? Like, this doesn't feel great anymore. It was such a disappointment. And it wasn't the game's fault. It was just the way that the industry has developed so much over the last few years. You know, it's just, it's mind-blowing to see what's being done with games.
SOCOM 3 still holds up pretty well, the third installment, but it takes you forever to get to a location. Like, if you don't have a vehicle, you are just walking for like 10, 15 minutes at a time to get to the nearest town. But I mean, like, the first couple of SOCOM, I'll put it this way, I liked the first couple SOCOMs much better than I liked the PS3 remake of SOCOM.
Yeah.
It just became a third-person shooter, and that was it. It was just a third-person shooter.
Yeah.
SOCOM was the first game that I played online on my PlayStation. I had to get the extra online equipment, and I actually joined a clan team for that as well. So yeah, that's where it all started with me on my online gaming.
Yeah, it was a good game. I really enjoyed it.
Didn't Grand Theft Auto launch on PlayStation 1?
Sorry?
Didn't Grand Theft Auto launch on PlayStation 1?
It did. It was on PS1, the top-down Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
The British car.
Yep.
Yeah, GTA. A lot of fun times having that one. Actually, like the GTA 5 on the 360, not the more recent one on the Xbox One, but the 360 version. Oh my God, ridiculous number of hours put in there. I'll have you know, I reached level 100 faster than any person I had on my friends list. Very proud of that. The only one running around with a rocket launcher. It was fantastic.
I do the dumbest things in GTA though. Like I spent probably 3 hours. I haven't progressed after like the first 30 minutes because I found I could try to jump off of a crane and try to get into water, but it was very hard. So I spent like 3 hours just climbing this crane and trying to jump into the water and smacking my head on the cement every time. And I just had that was fun enough for me. I'm like, just ship this. Why'd you spend the $200 million?
Or the little submarine that you can get in, like actually picking that up with one of the choppers and dropping it in the middle of the city. I can't tell you how much time I spent doing that. It was, and I just admitted that live. So let's move on to the next question. When you've made a few small games for personal learning and you want to seriously consider getting into the industry, when deciding your first game, do you decide to go small and safe and make a Me Too style game, or do you remember why you got into games in the first place and try and create something more ambitious and amazing and possibly not even done before?
Go big or go home.
I just got a job. That's how I got into the games industry. There's no making of a game myself. I always intended to when I started, but yeah.
I think, isn't that one of the beauties of being an indie development studio, though, is having that freedom and not being stuck with the constraints that some of these larger franchises have, where they sort of have to stick true to what the franchise has already delivered in the past?
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I can be sitting down playing a game, and some people might see it as, I'm just sitting there trying to steal other people's ideas or whatever, but I try to sort of write down what other games are doing, and then I possibly cook it in a pot, and then I say, okay, is there a game that's like this, and this? And then you kind of say to yourself, there isn't, and then you start throwing things out and say, okay, that can't work because it doesn't go with whatever. And then I might end up with a game and I'm just like, there actually is no game that is currently doing this, and this is definitely a game that I would love to play. So sometimes for me, that is sort of where I start with, and that's kind of how I got to Gear Gauntlet. I was playing Guitar Hero and I absolutely loved it. And I was just playing, it was really difficult, and I loved the color matching and stuff like that. And I just thought to myself, okay, without changing the difficulty and stuff like that, how can I make it so I can, advance and stuff like that? And that's where the root stuff kind of came into it, and with the colors and stuff like that. But I also thought to myself, I wanted to make a platformer that was kind of like an endless runner, but it had an ending to it. Because I don't like just constantly going somewhere without a goal. I don't know. Was able to mash up all these ideas, and then came up with what was at the time it was called Dot Dash, because I couldn't draw, and I was like, I need to make a game that literally just had a circle and some blocks, and it evolved because people took to it. So I said, okay, I need to make this into a serious game, and outsource the art and stuff like that. But the concept of the idea came from me wanting to make something that wasn't available but had elements of other games that I loved. So it just didn't make no sense to me to just go make something that was already available, because it was just a copy that I wouldn't feel it was my own and stuff like that. And I suppose as an indie, I didn't have a risk of if I did it and no one bought it, I'm out of a job or whatever, because I was just doing it on my own back anyways. And I've actually got a decent job. I get paid quite well, but it's just not games, and that's the only reason why I would want to move over if I had the opportunity. But yeah, that's sort of.
The important thing really when you're starting up is to not bite off more than you can chew. If you're starting up with no experience, don't try and make the next Call of Duty or World of Warcraft or anything like that if you don't have the experience. But don't just do Flappy Bird, because other than to learn, make a Flappy Bird for fun, to learn how to make a Flappy Bird, but not to release as this is Acme Soft's latest great thing. It's a Flappy Bird. That's not going to get you noticed.
I agree 100%.
Flood the market with more Flappy Bird clones. And keep in mind, there are a ton of big name indie developers or big name developers in general, guys like Peter Molyneux and Tim Schafer, that even struggle making smaller games, and they have the resources to make them. Look at Peter Molyneux's Got Us with Pointy Cans. You know what I mean? Like, this is a guy that's made games that have sold a lot of copies. This is not a small person. This is a very big person that's right now kind of in this weird struggle to make a smaller game like Got Us.
Well, and you're right.
A lot of that's bad, but
Yeah, but look at these guys. To Nick's point, is don't bite off more than you can chew. Peter and all these people have built teams that are now quite large compared to the games they're trying to make, and it's really tough to let people go and do all that sort of stuff and work the finances to make a smaller game. Whereas you guys are talking about teams right now, a lot of us where we're smaller and we have day jobs and whatnot, and when you're trying to feed that large of a beast, it's really challenging to make these smaller games. And you've got to get into a mindset. They've had years growing to this mentality of building bigger productions, and to go back is very difficult. And I made a choice a long time ago. I've been making games for about 20 years that I never wanted to work on a game that would take me more than originally more than 8 months to make. I just felt like I would lose interest. And then now I push that to maybe 2 years. But the problem with it was I hated making bigger games, because I knew I couldn't. I didn't want to get into the red tape and the personalities and everything like that. The minute your team gets larger, you have to make a decision early on. Do you want to deal with the politics of that, or do you want to try to keep something a little more personal? And for me, I've always wanted to keep things a little more personal.
That makes a lot of sense. I actually I don't make video games. I just play them. I don't even play them very well. I'm actually very poor at that. But I have this great idea for a video game startup here, where you get to play as a game developer making a video game, right? And you have to go through all the moral choices of making video games. And one of the end level bosses would be a guy from higher up your company that's forcing you to make certain parts of your game DLC, right? I call this game Electronic Arts.
EA RPG. That's a great thing. EA RPG.
I'm gonna release it for the Android later this year. I don't know. We'll see.
Max, I've got to say your game sounds pretty ambitious. We were saying, don't bite off the Call of Duties, but it sounds like you guys kind of are.
Yeah, I think we're.
You're ripping off Activision a little.
If it wasn't for some of the experience that we did hire and that we have inherent to us, it would definitely be a lot bigger than a Flappy Bird for us. But
that's what it comes down to. It's experience as well. You're saying you're using your experience. You've got the military background. You've got the experienced hires. Then you're not biting off more than you can chew.
Yeah.
No, exactly, and it's been amazing just to see how things can come together with like everything's been falling together a lot quicker than we ever thought it would be, and it's really cool when we had like a few weeks till our first directors meeting, and all these people are bringing like all their weight and experience to bear and putting this together, and it's like wow, we're seeing things come together. We have our storyboards now, and it's pretty amazing stuff. I feel
you're
like
also using Unreal 4, which is great.
well, I feel like the redheaded stepchild of the group because I'm like, well, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but you know, it sounds cool.
Oh dear. Okay, so we have a couple of other questions that have been dropped in. So the next one is, what kind of budget is needed for a console game, and that's not including actual development? So that's quite broad, but does anyone want to tackle that?
So is that meaning, like, if you're taking away the actual development costs, what's left to do? That'd be marketing and that sort of thing, you think?
I would imagine so, yeah.
I would have thought it. I mean, we found there's more hidden costs than beyond marketing. I mean, we haven't paid our development team. We are doing this as a hobby, but we're still having to use money for. I mean, there is the marketing side of it, of shows, because you've got to get it out there a little bit. You don't necessarily have to do big, expensive ones. There are often local shows you can take it to, or, as I say, indie dev meetups, and in the UK there's a thing called Game City, which is once a year. That's kind of a festival of gaming, and that one's a free show to apply to. So you can
That's similar
do
to
a lot
what
of
we're
things
doing.
on
Is
free.
we're kind of holding off until the game takes off to actually have some capital to hire permanent positions. But right now, it's like you said, it's just a hobby for a lot of people. And the big expenses are, again, like you said, it's all the hidden costs. So, supporting Jaloo or traveling to gaming conventions. I mean, we're looking at PAX East in a year or two, and that's going to be a couple $1,000s for a booth, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also the licensing costs for engines and sort of things too, right?
Yeah, a lot of them are now percentage, I think, from what I remember.
That's right. Yeah, it's a percentage of your earnings.
But you think of
Yeah.
things like QA, like are you going to use QA or not, which I would recommend everybody do. There's cheap options out there, but you still have to do it. Localization.
Ratings
I think, yeah, ratings boards I think are cheaper now. Like they're almost free, but still I'd say $5,000 at least set aside for that, up to $10,000.
US. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
nuts.
we're expecting around between 5 and 7 UK grand UK sterling for the cost of ratings boards, localization, QA, to get our game from being a finished game that I can play on my PC here to a finished game that's on the store in multiple countries.
So is that why you guys would say, for example, like highly suggest getting yourself affiliated with something like the ID at Xbox program?
Idea
Yes.
Xbox is really, really helpful in that they will put you in touch with people. They will help. They're not a publisher. They're not publishing our games. They're an enabler to get us on the console itself. So
Yeah.
we can't expect, and we don't expect, Idea Xbox to pay for us to go to shows, to pay to do advertising for us. If it supports their platform and they have a slot and this, that, and the other, then you may be part of a promotion they are doing. But they are not there for me making games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're there
Yeah.
technically for you and for production things related to Xbox. And
Yeah.
the other side of it too is they will help you with, hey, who do I even talk to about ratings, or who do you recommend for QA or any of these sorts of things? They'll walk you to those people, but they won't do it for you.
I mean, yeah, they are really friendly, really approachable, and really do help you get through these things that can come up. And even though I've been in games for 13 years or 14 years before I got to that point, it's like, oh crap, yeah, we've got to do ratings, haven't we? How do we? What are these? And then you've got pages of all these acronyms that you've got to think of. Which country is this one from?
Yeah.
And they'll help you through those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've met a few people that work at ID at Xbox now, and just what a lovely bunch of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great to work with. And they've also, like Nick was saying, they always do find angles for you, especially if it makes sense for them, and present you with opportunities almost all the time of like, you could do this, and then you question like, can I fly all the way across the world to support that or not, and that sort of thing. But at least you have the opportunity.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'd say that for that question, it's probably for our experience, it takes almost up to 20 to 25 grand just to get your game from being what it is to shipping with all those hidden costs, and you got to be prepared for that. Or if you decide not to do it, it's way more risk, and you might be stuck in like certification hell or whatever because you didn't.
Yeah.
You can do things on you can pull back that cost quite a bit on certain things. So localization, you don't have to localize to all countries and release in all countries. The only bits that are, and it goes the same for like the iOS App Store. You get more coverage if you localize on the iOS App Store, the App Store description to Spanish if you're releasing in Spain. Apple don't have the kind of the requirements that something like Xbox would have to mean that you localize, but you can not localize to other languages and only release in your native language, in your
and then
native.
It's far cheaper.
Like in the UK and Australia and in the US, you don't need to localize if you speak English. If you don't, then release it in Spain and Mexico or Brazil or Portugal. Or you can reduce costs that way. You could go to your local university. Go to the local university, ask people there if they'll do it, off language courses as experience for them, and pay them, a fair wage for that. But it would be cheaper than going to some large company and paying full whack.
So basically, like if you're an indie developer making an RPG, don't make an RPG and release it worldwide and expect it to cost $5,000.
Yeah.
Another thing to look at is the profit share model, which requires particular interviewing and ensuring you're getting the right committed people. But with the profit share model, everyone commits to making a project and they get out of it what everyone puts into it. So if you make a great product that makes some money, then based on the number of hours you worked and shares you have, you get so much of that profit.
Yep.
Well, there you have it, people. Start saving your pennies.
I was just going to say, I guess there's also the Kickstarter model, which has kind of had a little bit of fame recently.
That one, I think, it's a risk as much as anything, but it's a risk that you can mitigate up front, really, because you can do your Kickstarter much before you do your development.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Kickstarter is definitely starting to become more of the norm these days, and I really feel like we're going to see a lot more of it and a lot more frequently. Developers sort of, I guess, testing the waters by using this method to see, is the interest there? Is there going to be enough people that are going to want to sink money into this game to warrant our money, time, blood, sweat, and tears to put into it? I can really see Kickstarter being quite popular.
Yeah, I like the idea behind it. It's just it's hard for a no name. Very
that's
hard,
awesome.
I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, even though I've worked at some rather large companies doing various working on projects that have made and sold millions, it hasn't been Nick Macon presents this. It hasn't, if I went and did a Kickstarter this week to try and raise some capital to get even an almost finished game like Rage Injustice, I haven't got the name to get on and get enough people in, potentially.
Yeah, you really have to have that awareness. Like even, I don't think Yu Suzuki as a person has that awareness as much. I mean, it's better than most, but as much as like Tim Schafer, but Shenmue did, right?
Yeah.
Plus, they were on stage at E3.
Yeah, which helps a lot.
Which helps a lot. That's why within so many hours.
There's a few people watching that, I know. Yeah, it was
strange.
That's definitely the platform you want to launch your Kickstarter on.
I mean, it's raising $5 million for a forklift game. It's awesome.
Oh no. Okay, so we've had another question here submitted by Mark Sherwood. It says, I'd love to know, with exclusive titles aside, what are the main deciding factors when it comes to choosing what platform to release on? And what are developers' thoughts on the long-running debate of must-have 1080p 60 FPS?
For me, it was choice of platform came down to my experience. I started off making a little phone game, so I developed experience on that. for the first year or so, and then over time when it was becoming more of a thing, and it's I want this on console. Okay, so I can approach Nintendo, I can approach Sony, I can approach Microsoft. I've got history with Microsoft. I've got history with Xbox. That made the decision a lot clearer of where to focus for my initial push and initial launch. I intend to release elsewhere at a later date, but right now, as I'm the one developer, I can only develop on one machine at a time. So my focus is on where my experience is.
For us, a big consideration for Cold Furnace Studios was we, being a bunch of gamers ourselves, we wanted to be able to release on all the platforms, which is why we're trying to tackle PlayStation, Xbox, Steam all at once. Because we didn't want to be exclusive with a particular platform and exclude a bunch of gamers. So, but I think maybe the incentive of going with a particular platform as well, if you choose to do that, is perhaps a sweeter deal with that particular platform if you're exclusively releasing with them. But I think you need to be a higher end game or studio to actually make that kind of a deal. So for us, the best option for all the gamers was releasing on every platform, including Linux, possible.
Yeah. I'm quite similar to Nick in that I'm only one developer, so I can only do one sort of thing at a time. And for me, it went with experience of the console that I play mostly, and because of the nature of the color changing in Gear Gauntlet, so I had to go with a controller that I was very comfortable with. So that for me was the Xbox. So when I was making the game, that's what was sort of in the back of my head. How is it going to play with the Xbox controller? Even when I was playing it on PC, that's what I was using, an Xbox controller. So it only made sense for me to submit the game to either Xbox when it came around, and they said yes. And for me, they seemed very enthusiastic about the game, and it just made sense just to go with them for now, because it was basically it was making my dream come true in terms of bringing a game to a console on a larger scale than what I'd done before, which was on the Xbox Live indie games. So yeah, it was for me. It was definitely the experience that sort of steered which platform I would be developing the game for first.
Does the type of game also affect which platform you would go with in terms of like if you were in Japan and you were going to make like a very hardcore JRPG, I mean, clearly your number one market is going to be the PS4. You're probably not going to extend everything to an exclusive deal for the Xbox One because Xbox isn't really selling crazy in Japan. It's a PlayStation country, right?
Yeah, I mean,
does genre affect your decision?
Genre and marketplace definitely does. I'm lucky because my day job is games and my night job is games. So my day job, I have to worry about that stuff, right? So we think of things all the time about like what's our market and what's the biggest bang for the buck and how much we invest and where we get the money. But when you're working more independently, it's like the path of least resistance, and that barrier to entry can be financial, it could be experience, it could be all these things. So with iDarb, it went on the path of least resistance, where it's like, okay, I know Xbox, I know PC, I know they're all very familiar to me, and I know how quickly I can get things over here. I know how quickly I can get to market. And then as that was kind of going along, we made these decisions that were also happening when ID at Xbox came to exist, and when all these things. So it was just a perfect storm where once that happened, we were able to show our game. We signed exclusivity with those guys because it helped move the game forward even faster for something that was just like a side project.
Yeah.
And how important is 1080p 60 frames per second? It's as important as it needs to be for a game, right? It's also a genre-specific thing. Like, I'm not going to play a turn-based card game that's 1080p 60 frames per second over another one that's maybe better because it's 720p. I won't play it. Like, no. But some games require it. So that question is always kind of a weird one to me because it all comes down to the concept of temporal resolution. You could be running at 15 frames a second, like Rallycross on PSX, the original PlayStation, and I loved that game, and it didn't even bother me because I got into the concept of it. Inconsistency is where it becomes a breakdown. But like, if you're a snob and you just have to have 60 FPS on a console, it's like, well, you should be on PC if you want high frame rate. Don't even be on a console then, because like it doesn't matter.
It depends on the game, totally. I mean, I want Raging Justice to be 1080p. It's rendering 1080p now. I want it to run at 60 frames a second. because I've gone with a kind of a stop frame pre-rendered animation style, the animations aren't 60 frames a second. The movement, the game, the update, everything's 60 frames a second except for the animation. So I'm getting people complaining watching YouTube videos that my frame rate isn't good enough. And it's like, well, it's running at 60.
That's idiotic because, like, Street Fighter 2, running at 30 frames per second, I think it was. I don't remember. Someone's going to skewer me later. But, like, those frames are running at various frame rates per character in context to that, which doesn't, at the end of the day, doesn't matter. It's the movement and everything like that is 60 FPS. It's centered on that. If a frame drops here and there, so be it. That's why I always preferred slowdown over frame skipping, because I'd rather it slow down and I have accuracy of knowing how to react to things than frame skipping where I missed a moment that I needed to watch or whatever. But everybody's eyes are different too. Like, the human range of sensitivity to frame rate is just so erratic. It's way off center. There's no real, like, there's an average that you can go for, and guess what? It's not gonna, you don't have to worry about 60 FPS then because it's lower to have to deal with for things. So it's like, to argue these things just seems kind of moot to me, because unless it's really jarring, like the real jarring thing is like when a game just slows down, speeds up, and frames drop and all stuff. That's jarring. But if something can be consistent, like, then it's all in context, and it shouldn't really matter. But then again, yeah, go to PC if you're a real snob.
If I can't play World Series of Poker at 1080p 60 frames per second, I'm just not going to play World.
But they're spending all their processing on those graphics.
It is dead to me. So in that regard, how do you guys manage fan expectations? Because obviously with the world of social media, things can evolve and break down quite quickly. So how do you control that message?
I don't know. I'm 1080p 60 frames per second, so I don't have to deal with it. But no, I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, I think
got that covered.
Yeah, those 2D graphics I'm using, we're pushing the envelope. I think just being upfront, because of social media, be out front and center about all that stuff, because it's an important issue to these guys. So why wait till later? And control those expectations by being completely honest about why you're doing it and all that sort of stuff. And it seems to just eliminate it. The thing is, like, if you don't answer some of these questions, then people start thinking about why, start constructing stories as to why you can't do it. And then it's suddenly you get all the typical internet stuff, like, these devs are lazy, they're stupid, blah, 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 blah. And then even if that happens, you come out and say, like, here's why we did it, and everybody's just like, oh, so sorry about that, yeah, that's awesome, makes sense. And it's like, geez, okay.
From a strictly PR standpoint, from a strictly PR standpoint, getting back to that, what is the bigger weapon in terms of handling criticism or expectations or objections online? Humility or distraction?
Humility, I think, helps a lot, but you also just, like, honesty.
We've gone with honesty totally with this, because Anna, my wife, is handling all the kind of the PR and the engaging with social media for making games, and she's made it her job to answer everything that she sees, any comment on anything that she sees on the internet. She will answer it with honesty, with why we're doing something, or our take on what someone said, no matter how negative or positive they are. We found that when we were doing our Steam Greenlight campaign, we would get a few people doing pretty nasty comments, and it's just, you go back and you look at what they do, and they seem to be serial nasty commenters on other things, but by the by, we still replied to them. We still gave them an answer to whatever the comment was or whatever they were asking, and half of them actually turned around and said, oh, well, thank you, and we assume that they upvoted us because they gave a polite reply back. You humanize yourself as well. It's one of the biggest tools you have in your toolbox as an indie dev, is that you can be a human. You can be not a big corporation.
Think of the internet as like your good friend you grew up with who has demonic Tourette's. And like, they're really evil and they're your friend, but it's just like the things they say are horrible, and then when you actually engage them as a human, they have a nice side to them sometimes.
Oh dear. Yeah, well, unfortunately, it literally isn't something that is ever going to stop being an issue these days. I think that gamers are just expecting everything to be stock standard, 1080p, 60 FPS, without any real consideration to how those specs actually affect the gameplay and how that's going to affect their experience and how they're going to be able to actually get immersed in the game that they're playing.
Gamers didn't complain about those issues until really big AAA developers made them big selling points for their games.
Yeah.
And they started writing about them, and then gamers latched on to that as bullet points. Well, my game, which is exclusive to my console, has this for your game, and your console does not.
it's a great way to have an objective number. People like you can't really compare. I know you have things like Metacritic, but they're not really good because you can't compare one person's percentage take on a game compared to another's. Whereas you can say it has 1080p, it has VSync enabled, or it doesn't. It has 60 frames a second, or it doesn't. They're easy comparisons, like top trumps.
Yep, quantifiable data that these guys can compare things with.
So do you think it's the media's to blame as well then with a lot of what's going on? Because you see some people say, why do people keep on going on about 1080p 60 frames per second, but then you go onto their page the next day and then they've got an article saying Xbox can't do 1080p.
As an ex-journalist, I can tell you those are the easiest things to do for content. Is benchmark. Hey, let's run like 3 benchmarks this week, and like it's so easy to do and do those comparisons. You don't care about the content or whatever. It's like, oh, this one's losing in the benchmark or whatever. So it's easy content to generate, and I'd say there's a little bit of blame here.
I blame Ubisoft.
It's always them. It's always them.
When in doubt, just blame the French. That's the route that I take.
Well, they're not going to argue back with you, that's for sure.
You know what? I want to make a game that's like, because of the requirements for it, it's probably gonna be the most simple game ever, which is be like a few basic shapes moving around a screen, but it's 4K running at 120 FPS, and then everybody has to try to catch up to that. It's Pong. It's just Pong, but still, it's 4K.
Pong in 4K. Yeah. You know, the sad thing is a lot of people actually buy it.
I know. They get T-shirts. There's a lot of merch.
Interesting. We should do a game where it's like we should do a game like that where it's like you know the color shader or the gamma screen where you get to adjust the gamma and you see like the dark to the gray to the white. We should do a game like that where you just slide it and then in the middle of the screen is a picture of Bobby Kodak's face and we call it 50 Shades of Kodak. And you just find the right shade of Kodak, the one that suits you best.
50 Shades of Kodak is not summoning any good imagery in my head right now. I'm in an elevator with him with a controller in my hand.
I could get awkward real quick.
Yeah. Nick, I was just that comment you made about being honest. Sort of brought up. There was a YouTuber that basically was saying, because there was a developer that did something and I think they were trying to be truthful or whatever, but they were saying, the YouTuber was basically saying that's not an excuse because at the end of the day you're trying to play with the big boys, because if you get $1 million then it will be fine for you, but now that people are criticizing your game you're trying to make up an excuse, and you know you can't, if you're not ready to play with the big boys, don't make games with the big boys and stuff like that. And you know, so maybe that's sometimes why people try to not be honest, because you know they don't want to be put in that position and stuff like that.
We try and just be honest. We don't. If someone wants to say, well, you're making an excuse for this, but well, we're giving you the honest answer. We try not to get into arguments with somebody. You know, arguments don't necessarily go anywhere online. It's very hard to, because you've got the lack of the body language, you've got the lack of the inflections and what have you. It's not worth getting into an argument with. We will answer truthfully, honestly, and with hopefully showing the passion that we've got for what we're doing. But if somebody wants to have an argument with us, we will back off eventually. It's
important to have a toolbox full of internet memes to pull out in case you get lost.
That's a really good
cat picture.
Because you want to be concise and end the conversation, whether it's pro you or not. It doesn't really matter. It's just you don't have the time to invest in those things, because all those dialogues end up eating up all your time versus making your game. So you just have to be completely honest, because there's no more point to argue after that. And if they hate you for it, so be it.
Yeah, but start with, oh, thanks for saying that. Try and disarm the argument as much as you can, rather than just saying, oh, what you're saying is wrong because we're actually doing this. It's, oh no, oh, thanks for saying that. I can see how it's coming across that way. We don't quite agree with you, but you know, thanks for your input. People find it hard to argue. People find it hard to argue when you're being nice to them.
Yeah.
They find it hard, but not impossible, I have found.
Not impossible. Not impossible. Harder then.
Welcome to Twitter.
Yeah. If you don't speak internet very well, then don't speak it. Act like a foreigner who doesn't know the language, and just be like, "Thank you for that, but I gotta, move on or whatever." Because like if you start speaking it, then you're in real trouble.
Yeah.
Well, there was one time because I went on IGN and they made a trailer, like a sort of commentary trailer, and one person came on and it was like, "You sound like Frank Bruno's son." And I was like, "What's that? What's that got to do with the game?" You know, it's just really random.
Yeah, he's a great person.
There are a lot of people that want to argue, that are trying to find an outlet, anybody that will give them that 10 seconds of an opening to get in there and basically act like a tool on social media. And the second that you start engaging with these people, you might as well block them because they just will not stop.
Yeah, they're looking for the fight. I was on this Walking Dead stream last week, and it was amazing because there's people just griefing everybody on that stream. And one of them was sitting there going like, "I thought Walking Dead was already past its prime. Why is this where I'm like, you're on a Walking Dead stream?" In my mind, I'm thinking like, what? You're coming here just for a fight?
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
It's amazing. Like people that are in these Xbox forums, for example, forums set up specifically for people who love Xbox, and you have people that are posting your pro PS and Xbox sucks. What are you even doing here?
In the old days, I don't know if you guys remember bulletin board systems back in the day when you'd call in with a modem, whatever, and they had their little bulletin boards. Every bulletin board system had a war room or the war zone or whatever, where everybody who wants to fight, go there. And it was like the player versus player area of chat. And that's where everybody went to go. Everybody was just like troll versus troll going nuts over there. And occasionally they'd bleed out, and then somebody would have to ban them or whatever. But it was awesome going into there sometimes to see that it existed way back then.
People just love the feeling of creating something. I mean, other people create like video games or like computers or cars or like pieces of art or something. Then other people just like to create I don't know, like stuff online. Like
conflict,
whether it be like a reaction, conflict, exactly. It's still the people that do this still get the same feeling of gratification. Like, yeah, I did it. When someone finishes making a car, or when someone finishes making some other work of art, they feel gratified. Like they spent this.
When they finally
time,
reduce the tears, they sit back and just like take in the moment. They're happy in their accomplishment.
Yeah, people get their sense of accomplishment off of that, and at the end of the day. If there's a thing that comes with a sense of accomplishment, people are going to do it.
Oh, absolutely. There's all this, like, these people, envision once they complete, like, they get this achievement unlocked to troll people online sign come up, It's
well,
that's what they're there for.
Just
I blame Ubisoft.
the French.
I'm feeling like there's some underlying issues that you have with Ubisoft here. Do you need it bent a little?
Is it a lack of limbs?
Yeah,
characters without any limbs.
Their hands just float.
I think he fell through the floor once when he was playing Assassin's Creed. He's never gotten over it.
They
didn't make Superman 64.
Oh, my God. They did.
I blame Mountain Dew.
I can't remember the last Ubisoft game that I've played where I thoroughly enjoyed it without many complaints. I think the last one was Far Cry 3. That might have been it.
Rayman was good.
Yeah, Rayman was really fun.
I never got into the Rain Man series. I skipped that one.
Just Dance?
Just that.
Really, name one good Ubisoft game. It's like Rayman, of course. Rayman, right?
Just Dance is a great game, though. I really do enjoy that. But that's okay for me to enjoy that because, I'm the girl in the room, so.
I can enjoy that it's a good game. I've not played it myself, but my family have played it quite a bit, and they love it, and there you go. Doesn't matter whether you're actually wiggling the Wiimote does anything, it seems to.
Yeah, and it's a good family game as well. It's something that sort of everybody in the family can get into and have a bit of a laugh and a bit of fun time. So, yeah, I really do enjoy it. My cats don't enjoy me enjoying it. They don't like the chopping up and down and the singing. I think they think I'm in pain, but I enjoy it. Dear. So has anybody else got anything else that you would like to raise while we're all here still? I'm going to All right. Well, look, thank you so much for all of you for taking the time out to provide that insight into the indie game development scene. It's been an absolute pleasure having all of you here today. And for those of you listening, if you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments section below, and we will get back to you. Indie Dev Workshop number 2 will be held in mid-August, so be sure to check back for further details of the studios that will be on hand to answer your questions. Everything else aside, I think that it's time for us to say goodbye.
Yeah, get your questions ready for the second workshop, because by then 50 Shades of Kodak should be like in the beta stage.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.